Yeah, let me turn on my mic. Um, Hearings from citizens. I don't have anyone on the list, but I want to give an opportunity to anybody here. Seeing none, we can move on. We have a CEO Star Award for Delmaro Dowell. Andy, are you going to handle that?
Yeah, I
All
will.
right.
I will start, and I think we can all participate. The CEO Star Award is reserved for those folks who go absolutely above and beyond, and this is a perfect example of that with Delmaro. There was a fleet-wide message sent out about a missing person, a critical message about somebody with Alzheimer's who was lost and missing. That message went out through our system. Several hours later, Delmaro recognized the individual while operating his Route 16, and he took decisive and caring action. Delmaro chose to stop, talk to the individual, keep him safe on his bus, and immediately contacted the authorities, provided comfort, professionalism, empathy, vigilance, and avoided what could have been an absolutely tragic outcome. So I think that when we think about what our folks do out in the community every day as a member of this entire community, Delmaro exemplifies that beyond reproach. So we really reserve this award for folks like Delmaro who go above and beyond. So please help me in thanking Delmaro for his incredible support of our community. Thank you, Delmaro.
Sure.
Sorry. Great, thank you.
I just try to do my job and look out for people. Like I've told a couple of people, I had a grandmother that she went missing looking for my uncle, like when I was like 8, 9, 10 years old, and I actually thought she was missing for about 3 days. And I talked to my mother about that, and like I said, that happened about 40 years ago. And I talked to my mother about it. She said, "Nah, boy, she was just missing for like a couple of hours." But in my mind, it was like 3 days, 2 or 3 days. So like when I saw this fella, I could tell that he was in some sort of distress because he said first he was going to one location, then he said he was going to another location, and I just said that something's not right. And sometimes I'm a little faster to read the text that they send across the screen. Sometimes I'm a little slow, and on that day I was a little slow, but eventually I read the text message, and I saw that he fit the description. And I decided to call in just to make sure that it wasn't him, and lo and behold, it was him. And the thing, like he said, if you don't show some sort of compassion or some sort of care, that could avert somebody from having a tragic situation. And that fella there, it's no telling what would have happened if I didn't intervene. So I'm very happy that I intervened and he was able to go home and be in the nursing home where he was from, and hopefully he had family that was happy to to get him back in the nursing home also.
Thank you, sir. Appreciate it. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you.
Who's meant to get on your bus that day?
Yes, ma'am. Thank you.
Delmaro has been with Metro for 20 years, and I think, again, represents the best of us. And thank you very much for everything you do.
Such a great story. And I know there are many other operators out there doing amazing things every day for our riders. I think I saw a social media post yesterday about an operator helping somebody in a power-assisted wheelchair that had a problem out of the street, and countless other events. So thank you to all our operators and everybody in the organization for helping people every day, and for Del Maros for setting the standard for all of us. All right, I got a few updates. First, I did this in planning and ops, I'll do it again today. Operator Career Fair, August 23rd. So many of our solutions, our performance, our ability to serve our community comes from having the right people there to do it. And I want everybody, whether you're listening online or here in the room, to encourage people to come to the Operator Career Fair on August 23rd. I will put the plug in that you have the opportunity to drive a bus a very short distance on property, but get some experience in the seat behind the wheel and have that opportunity to help people just like Del Maro did. I just got back from the APTA conference for board members and board administrators. I cannot recreate all the discussion that went on there in any way, and Tiana was there and Natalie was there as well. So I might ask you to add a note here in just a moment. Probably should have warned you ahead of time. But one, there are a lot of agencies out there facing similar challenges. But what I heard is to a greater degree than we are. So that was an interesting check on perspective. Fiscal challenges being a huge part of it. To that end, there was a extensive briefing on Washington and legislation there. To distill it down, there's a lot of variables pushing in lots of different directions, so it is hard to predict what would happen. But the feeling of several of the experts from Washington is that nothing would happen. And there would be a continuing resolution, which is not particularly good, not particularly bad for funding. So we'll see, but it is a energetic environment, so it could go in a different direction. So that was very interesting, and I'm working to get all the slides and the details if anybody's more interested to hear about that. There's a lot of major events, World Cup and the Olympics coming up. So many of the agencies were dealing with that, and pretty much all of them are unfunded. So we're looking at an agency like ours all of a sudden having a $40 million expense over a few week period and having to deal with that. So they were asking for help for us to advocate for them and advocate for their funding. But I think trying to pull everybody in the transit industry together to advocate for funding across the industry. We did have one very specific ask from LA Metro for the Olympics. They asked to borrow a couple buses. They have set out a goal to borrow a couple buses from every agency in the country. I kid you not, because they need hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of buses over a 4-week period to be able to serve the Olympics. We have several years before that happens, but that was a surprising ask.
Do we get to go on the bus?
Well, they did say they would take operators as well. So there you go. Bring it full circle, Pete. Thank you so much. It is great to spend time with other leaders and see what's going on with them. And also to really tell everybody about the great work that's going on here. I also want to note that Andy and I had some really great meetings with the mayor and Commissioner Driehaus last week, and it was amazing how incredibly supportive they are of what we're doing. This board, the entire organization, our new leadership, and the excitement around BRT, and also some good questions about things like operator safety and ensuring that we are taking care of our operators. I do want to note that there was a whole discussion at the conference on that as well, and I brought home a few small details that I shared with Andy yesterday that we can move forward with to make sure we're supporting our operators as much as possible. So that's that. I have planning and ops, and I have some comments on strategy that will come a little bit later, so kind of breaking up my comments in a few different ways. So that's my update for today, and I think we can move right into the board minutes. Entertain a motion to approve unless there's any questions or concerns. Thank you, Van. All right. Properly moved and seconded. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed say left. Any abstentions? All right, the minutes are approved. That takes us right into finance. Ms.
All right.
Clark.
Thank you so much, and great morning to everyone. We had a very good meeting when it came to finance, and a lot of things that everyone I think is going to be very pleased with. For instance, June, we came in at 15.8 million, certainly favorable to budget, and it's nice to see that our sales tax is trending in the direction that we've been wanting it to for some time. In addition to that, ridership was up a whole 5% compared to last year, so that was good as well. We also received Clark Schaefer did their audit report summary for us, and it was really good to see that our team here has already been working on implementation and updating and just figuring out some of the challenges with our P card services and working through those things, and they've already been well on their way and really solving all those issues that they had brought to us. So they've done a great job with that, and for that I am thankful. To dive in deeper, I'm going to turn over to Tim to kind of go over some last minute details or things that you may want to cover.
Should I do this now, or do you want to wait till later in the agenda? Okay, perfect. All right, everyone. Natalie, if you can go to the slides, please. There we go. Kind of go down to the first page we talked to. Thank you, Natalie. As we go through there, you can see the total revenue came in favorable to budget, as Ms. Clark said, by about $800,000. It was largely driven by the positive variance we had with our sales tax, which was $775,000 greater than what we had budgeted. So some good news there. On the expense side, we were unfavorable, which meant we spent more than we expected during the month. But that's all explainable. Part of it were the Gladstone repairs that we had gone over a couple months ago, along with some additional maintenance spend that we've seen. And Bill and his team are digging deep into that. But want to highlight, on the maintenance side, we average over 5,000 transactions a month. So there's just so many parts going back and forth. And for me, it was an educational moment to understand the volume of parts that go through there. And so kudos to Bill's team for managing that whole process, just basically 5,000 transactions. But also we're digging deep into that, and they have a cadence now to go through which are the high-level spend, which are the high-value items, and targeting on what we can do to kind of lower that unfavorable variance. But all in all, we're managing through that. You net those two numbers together, and we came in with an operating capital contribution or a surplus for the month of about $1.5 million, which was favorable by $459,000. Ms. Clark mentioned that the ridership was 5% greater than last year at this time, a little bit less than budget, but it's something that it's nice to see a full 5% greater than last month, or not last year. Next page, Natalie. And this is, I think Mr. Etheridge knows this is my favorite slide. It's all numbers, which is great for me. We've gone through the left side, which are the month-to-date items for the most part. but really want to focus in on one line in particular is our sales tax line. So the county sales tax line, year to date, you can see we're favorable by $288,000 to budget. And so we're at 60 million and change, 60.7. Last year, we were at 57.8. I want to kind of remind the committee here, my first day was July 15th last year, and Andy was the one who led the discussion. At that point, same snapshot, same period. The year-to-date variance, we were $2.4 million under budget on sales tax. And we overcame that unfavorable variance on the revenue line. But it is good to see that we were spot on, a little bit exceeding budget, and doing much greater than we did last year. So really good news there on that front. And going down to the bottom for the year-to-date figures, you can see we're at $2.9 million year-to-date, which is greater than our budget, which is 2.9 greater than our budget, and also we're greater than what we were last year. So good news there when you net the two numbers together. Next page, Natalie. Here's our standard sales tax slide. As I mentioned, great news to see us being slightly favorable to variance for the year. We showed, as I mentioned, we showed the committee and the board that we were able to overcome the negative variance last year, but it is good to have some, I like to say, some wind in our sails. A lot of uncertainty with the sales tax number. 75% of our revenue is sales tax, is one item that we do not control. So from a financial perspective, it's a challenge for me to have the largest revenue item that you can't control. It's like a gift each month. Luckily, the gifts have been exceeding our expectations this year. So good news there. And that's all I have. Any questions from the group here?
Two
Yes.
questions. One on the wages and expenses. Are we below budget because we're not hitting our hiring targets?
Both of it's a couple things, Mr. Gibson. It could be the hiring. Our vacancy percentage is greater than we expected. We're having some challenges with the operators, getting the operator headcount to where we had budgeted. But also we did a slight change in our medical accruals, medical expense that are part of the benefits line, slightly with that. So it's a combination of a few items there.
But the bulk of it is the vacancy.
Yes. Mm-hmm.
And then my last thing, this is something that just came up. So with the county with the sales tax, do you have the ability to forecast using other predictors so that even though we have no way of controlling it, that we feel like there's these leading indicators that will tell us that county sales tax would be up or down or close to what we think?
We haven't found that magic bullet yet. In the past, we've engaged the UC economics team, and they would pull a lot of data, and we haven't done that thus far this year. The only item that we do use occasionally is we get a preliminary estimate from the state, and usually that's a couple weeks before the final numbers are issued. Not a lot of forecasting ability there, but it does give us, we kind of know where we're standing a couple weeks beforehand. We're all reading the same things. I read that June was the highest sales month that we've seen here in the U.S., so maybe we'll see that. But again, we haven't found that magic page in the book to see how we can forecast it.
Because I think I'm about to state the obvious, which is that because it's such a big part of our revenue, the ability to somewhat predict it, if we can't, is this hard? The fact that we can't control it is a little.
It's a challenge financially for the organization, but it's one that we understand that's a challenge we have, and at least we have a 3-month delay in the sales tax to when we report it. So what you're seeing here were the March estimates. So it does give us a little bit of runway there. When we see a negative impact, we can react. But it's a concern for all of us. But we do manage it, and I think you look at last year and what the company did to overcome the huge variance. As I mentioned, $2.4 million through the first, looking at the exact same period last year, and I think the number ended up being $4.5 million in range for the year. We overcame that. So this team works really well together, and it's a highlight. It's something that we talk about. I know I look at this number on a daily basis, and what would the impact be? What can we change? We can't change the revenue line that comes in, but we can change our spending if we need to. All right, thank you. Go ahead.
Just to add one more thing to that is that we're projecting every quarter out 5 years, right? So our horizon is pretty long. So when we see these monthly variances, we reproject out again in a 5-year period. So our goal is to never be in a corner. Because of the unpredictability of it, we know we need a little bit of slack in the system because we can't rely upon the models we have in the past. And I think what we learned through looking at the models that they very heavily weight recency. And so when we were kind of in a positive mode with seeing positive results in sales tax, the projections were really positive. And then immediately, once those flattened out in the short term, we saw those projections go way south. So I think that constant gardening, as Mr. Walker said.
And I know that last year we encountered the school
Sales
what
tax
sales
holiday.
the tax holiday where you don't pay a sales tax, and we didn't believe that it would be as long as it was, and I think it ended up being 5 days last year.
I think it was 7 or 8 days
So,
last year.
okay, whoa. So it was pretty significant. Do we know if that's going to be the same situation this year? Because last year it kind of surprised us, and we could see that. We could see that dip.
Two things. So last year it was unusual. It was an 8-day sales holiday. I think it was August 1st through the 8th of August last year. And we saw a decrease, which we weren't expecting. We were expecting just the weekend holiday that we had seen in prior years. But we did get an added payment from the state a couple months later related to that. No one could answer that question. But when we look at the spending here, I think they said that this year is going to be a full 2 weeks with the sales tax holiday. So our budget was built on a longer holiday like we had last year, but not the full 2 weeks. So we'll just have to wait and see. I mean, and again, it would be an August spend that we would see and report out in November. And we'll have to wait and see on that one, Ms. Clark. But I don't know whether we'll get another gift like we did last year, but we're managing to, we were expecting a lower number. I don't know whether we didn't expect the full 2 weeks. But
Sure.
as again, we can adjust that as we go along and manage our spending.
All right, thank you, Mr. Walker, and thank you for indulging a little bit of a change.
Any other questions from the group? All right, thank you, everyone.
That was quite a moment last year when that occurred. So thanks for bringing that back up. And I'm glad we're managing to it and doing the best we can to control. All right. So planning and ops is next, but I did not circle back to Natalie and Tiana about the conference. Were there any lessons you wanted to share from that meeting? And what was your experience like? Yeah.
Actually, as a new board member, it was surprising to see so many new board members across. Sorry, see, that's a new board member thing. Press the button. So many, almost, I would say a good 40% of the participants were new. What I found most valuable in the conferences was the joint sessions with administration and board members, in particular around roles and responsibilities and building good relationships. But thank you. And I just want to give Natalie a shout out. She is amazing.
Yes.
Just kind of getting you where you need to be, giving you the heads up. So I really appreciate the time and the support during this conference.
Well, thank you. I learned an awful lot at the conference. I took a lot of classes with other board liaisons throughout the nation. There's 4 committees that I can take part in or have some leadership in. They asked me to join them all, but I may end up joining 2 of them. And I may take a leadership role, but I'm finding out the time commitments because I do a lot internally. And if I take a commitment, I want to make sure that I can give 100%.
It was
And
great.
thank you, Tiana, and thank you, Blake. I work with a wonderful board, and it's such a pleasure.
It was great to see all the board administrators connecting. That's what they say there. We have different names, but and talking about issues and sharing thoughts. That was great. And there were the new board members, and then there were a lot of board chairs. It was kind of interesting that those were the three main groupings. So, all right. Well, thank you very much for that. This does occur every year in July. And Natalie suggested if more people want to go next year, maybe we'll move the board meeting to Thursday that week, because the conference is actually still going on right now. We flew back so we could be here. All right, planning and ops. There are a number of things from there. You can see we have 6 procurements that are on the consent agenda, but the 3 hours or so that we met was mostly around briefing items. So the first thing I wanted to note from that was just how amazed I am in the progress that this organization has made, CPS has made, the city has made, all the organizations helping our community and our kids have made in transportation for students. Several years ago, we were talking about how do we communicate? Can we get into the schools? How do we adjust the schedules? Make sure we're providing the best service. My sense from staff and CPS as well is like that's all pretty much handled. Like we know what we're doing. It's a lot of work. I don't want to underplay that, but we know what we're doing. The fact that we've added in 12 new schools and been able to do that with a lot of work, but relatively easily, we know what we're doing, is incredibly impressive. And a lot of the discussion came back to the best way we can serve the students, CPS, and our entire community is, again, and I'll go back to it, the Operator Career Fair on August 23rd. We need to be fully staffed so that we can run every bus. That bus can be on time. So I'm going to keep pushing that for everybody on the board to talk to people you know, talk to your communities, and get people out to that career fair. One thing that I don't think has got as much press is we're going to have color-coded passes that will help our operators know what kind of travel or journey the students should be on, whether it's a direct route or a transfer or after-school programs, extracurricular. And it's this type of small innovation, well, maybe not that small, that continues to improve what we're doing. We also have service changes that went into effect a few days ago, or when are they taking effect? August, okay. And so it's the Route 8 is new. And then 2, 16, 19, 20, and 37. I'm excited about the 37 because it goes from Glenaway Crossing all the way over to Oakley. Means I can take my kids to the movie on it, or I forget what that indoor gym that they're always bugging me to go to, Urban Air. If you don't know, our Oakley station is right next to it. We've spent some time there, me and the kids, and you can hit Target as well, which we have done. So there are also some express service changes along the I-71 corridor, and we got into some of the details on that, and that is great. BRT briefing, that was also great. I think we're going to do more regular briefings. This was a little bit of a catch-up. And I can tell you, in meeting with the mayor and county commissioner, I used some of the content we got in that briefing, and I felt like so much more prepared to talk about what was happening, where we are at with 30% design. And I think the biggest thing I took from it, as we focus on rapid, right, is that every detail matters. every intersection that can have signal priority, every foot of bus-only lane, every placement of every stop affects the speed of that system. And the speed of that system obviously serves the community and our riders and leads to other elements like transit-oriented development. You have a great BRT line, people want to invest around it. And that helps the entire city, county, region. So we push that with other leaders, and I would encourage you guys to do the same. Pay attention to these details that all come together to form BRT. Also impressed with the number of engagements the PRT team has had already. And I think we have another round coming in September. So please go out and be there. Good to see Sarah Sheets and some of the photos at the events. Good job. All right, that takes us into our procurement items. Again, all of these are on a consent agenda, but we have I think it's an extension to medical exam services. We have some Trapeze software that we're extending out as well as we continue to work on moving to Hastis and working out some of those systems. Trapeze and Hastis are different systems. Fleet Watch software, some upgrades that were needed. This is around fluids and fueling and some of the older equipment needed to be replaced as we move forward with that. Temporary labor services, we're using more than we had in the past, and so we had to extend that out as well. Diesel exhaust fluid, which I think is everybody's favorite subject. We don't have a lot of discretion there. We have to get diesel exhaust fluid. And then what is pretty exciting is improvements to the Northside Transit Center signage. And that might be something that people had questions about a little bit more. The other ones are pretty straightforward. Any items you would like to take off the consent agenda or questions or explanations needed before we move forward with a vote? Hearing none, I will move the consent agenda.
Second.
Properly moved and seconded. Last chance for questions, comments? Felt like I felt some energy over there. So, all right, hearing none, let's move forward with the vote. Roll call.
Ms. Amat?
Yes.
Mr. Bryce?
Yes.
Ms. Clark?
Yes.
Mr. Etheridge?
Yes.
Mr. Gibson? Mr. Kelly?
Yes.
Mr. Metz? Ms. Moss?
Yes.
Ms. Sheets?
Yes.
And Ms. Taylor?
Yes.
All right, motion passes.
Mr. Chair, thanks for taking on that 3-hour meeting while I was on vacation.
Oh, it's my pleasure.
I was, right before I was on vacation, I was in Minneapolis, St. Paul, and observed their BRT in action. And so have a slew of pictures of stops and small details like stickers on the ground where to board the bus that I'll be sharing with the team. So certainly had some informed perspective on BRT coming out of that trip.
That's great. These details matter. And seeing every system that you can matters. So great. And it was my pleasure to do it. But it is a lot of work planning an ops. So good to have you back. Neil, we've got a paratransit meeting last Thursday. Would you like to tell us about what happened and all the amazing work you're doing?
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you, Mr. Etheridge. So we had a robust conversation during our paratransit meeting on Thursday. After Ms. Moss and I had some, we'll say, negative experiences on buses kind of throughout our time riding, we were able to sit down with Mr. Aiello and his staff to what we're calling focus group conversation to have them walk us through their training material and give our perspective. And I think kind of, I'm not going to speak for you too much, but I think kind of the major unlock from that was the training material to an operator made it seem like individuals with disabilities were a separate class of people that you had to deal with completely separately. And the conversation that we had was really just everybody who rides the bus has their own experiences, has their own abilities, right? So I think one thing Andy said is that you might have somebody who is completely able-bodied, has a PhD, is the smartest person in the world, but has never ridden a bus. So might be very confused about how to ride the bus and needs help and has different abilities. And just likewise, you might have somebody who is cognitively disabled but is able-bodied and has their own experiences. So they are working kind of on a back end to craft their training material that will hopefully set a national standard for how to treat all riders with all abilities in their own unique ways. So we are looking forward to further conversations about that. I don't know if you want to speak to that a little bit, Andy.
I'd be happy to. Thank you. I won't repeat what Neil said, but it's been a very, very productive conversation with the opportunity to kind of revolutionize the way we look at customer service. All customers have different needs. How we approach them is the job of the professional operator. So we're looking forward to that. We've had our internal group meets next week where we're going to go through some of the proposed changes to our training materials, and we'll be back with Neil and Bree to kind of get another round of input from them as we kind of move forward with these changes. It's really exciting, and if all goes well, as Neil said, this has a potential to be a national model for customer service. So we're really looking forward to it.
And the next thing we talked about in our updates, so we kicked off the regional paratransit one-seat ride pilot that started in May. And that is operating Mondays through Fridays from 6 to 6 a.m. to p.m. And, to be frank, we're off to a little bit of a slow start. We have 44 enrolled riders and 6 that are active. We have 1 super rider that has taken 15 of the 35 to 40 total rides. And the average trip distance is about 30 miles. That, just as an refresh for everybody, this one-seat ride pilot is going from as far north as Butler County and as far south as northern Kentucky, all in one ride for $8. So the average trip distance is just over 30 miles, and the average time is 62 minutes. So we had a conversation about in the future making the timing a little bit flexible because we talked about how just for people who work during the day and might want to take it for leisure trips in the evening, that's not the most convenient time. So we had a conversation about adjusting that in the future as we explore the pilot. Moving forward, we are off to a great start with the Easy Connect One call center. We have, through the month of May, 507 calls. The One call center is individuals who have questions about Metro or Butler County regional transit. There's just one phone number you can call. Metro is helping out Butler County with their call center in the evening hours. So we have 507 calls. That was off to a great start there. And finally, our access update. We got a little bit of an update in our meeting on Tuesday, but we are doing very well. We're improving our on-time performance. We're about 94% there in the month of June. And finally, we have increased our staffing in Access and Metro Now. We are an increase of 42%. We have hired 120 drivers in 2025. And even though we've increased the number of drivers by a rapid amount, we have decreased our preventable accidents. Our goal is 24 for the year, and so far in 2025, we have just 9 preventable accidents. So we are doing very well there and hoping that continues. And that wraps up my update. Any questions? All right. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Absolutely amazing. The national model on customer service. That's impressive. I've been taken over that committee for about 6 months, and you're already working on national models. That's great. Thank you so much for all you're doing there. And it'll be interesting to see how Easy Connect progresses. That actually was something that people were interested in at the conference as well. So I kind of shared the basics with several agencies that have similar situations, and there's a lot of agencies with similar situations, so multi-county, multi-state. Again, national model, right?
Yeah.
Leading the way. So thanks for everything you're doing there.
Thank you.
One thing on safety you brought up, the Capital District, which is northern New York, told me that they are piloting the internal side view mirror displays. So these are actually cameras, and it's like a mirror, but it's on the inside of the bus, and it shows what would be in a mirror, but also can give you a lot more information as well. So that was surprising. I did not realize that type of technology is being piloted, and Bill has something to say on this. Oh my gosh. What?
And so I'm going to share that we have been slowly piloting that on the fixed route system. We have a bus equipped. We had it equipped with one system, and now we're on the second system. So we're testing that technology, and everything so far is very positive. One of the things that goes with that, though, is each state has to approve those for use. And so in the state of Ohio, they've approved it, which is a little bit strange. They've approved it by manufacturer. So there are 3 different manufacturers that make those electronic remote mirrors that we can use. So we're testing the second one, and then we'll bring in the third one as well. But so far, yes, it's pretty exciting.
And a lot of this connects to safety, not just in terms of improving operator visibility, but also sometimes when the road slopes a little bit, the mirror sticks out and hits a road sign, and that kind of thing, and it reduces those types of incidents as well. All right. I keep going back and forward. I'm sorry about that. Andy, why don't you put us back on track with your progress and priorities?
All right, thank you, Mr. Chair. First, as I kind of wrap up the first month in the role, I wanted to extend a huge thanks to our executive team. We've covered a lot here today, and when you see things like, for example, on the ops side and the CEO star recognition, that was possible because we have an ops and safety team that has a great relationship with CPD and emergency response that is able to send out those text messages, and they're read by our operators, and that's that due diligence that our ops team does, and they're incredible. We just kind of brushed over phase 4 of reinventing Metro is going to be on the street in August, which is incredible, and that's being done in a tight labor market because of the geniuses up on the 6th floor making those new connections. We talk about the 67 being an east-west connection, and that happening now with frequency all day and 7 days a week. That's a game changer for our network. And so these are things that happen every day. You mentioned CPS, our chief of staff and our chief communications officer. It's all about communicating and supporting the parents, and they've been incredible over the last few weeks in getting that all spun up and ready for the school year. We'll talk a little bit about a hiring milestone. Well, Neil already talked about it, where we've increased our paratransit and Metro Now headcount by 42% in the last year, and that's thanks to Adrienne and her team. And on the finance side, we'll talk about the National Transit Database, which is fundamental. So we have an incredible executive leadership team, and they've been amazingly supportive of me, and I just want to say thank you. Going to the list officially, state and federal funding. Blake talked about federal funding. We're tracking what's happening in Washington. We actually had a very good year with respect to the State House in Ohio. It was a tough budget year for those that track state policy in Ohio, and transit fared very well. It basically maintained what's been a historically high level of funding for transit in the state of Ohio, $85.5 million available throughout the state for transit agencies. The Workforce Mobility Program is a state bucket of funds that we have used previously to stand up Metro Now zones because it helps to get people to work, we'll apply to that again. We've been able to purchase vehicles through that mobility program, and those funds being available at the State House is huge in terms of putting all these pieces together in our 5-year plan. We mentioned the National Transit Database. This is, the federal government requires us to report very specific data to the National Transit Database. And the definitions of what we report are strictly controlled, and they get audited by FTA every year to make sure that when we say our administrative expense per revenue hour, you can compare that from Cincinnati to St. Louis to Sacramento. That is a heavy lift on the part of the entire agency. There's safety data, there's fuel data, there's expense data, and there's operations data. And it's one of those behind the scenes things that is done in a very professional manner. We submit that to the FTA. We usually go back and forth 3 or 4 times for them to accept the data. And I think we only did 1 back and forth this year. So it was an incredible report from the finance team. Safety was mentioned by Neil. We are now halfway through the year. Our preventable accident per 100,000 mile figure stands at 0.81. We've had 57 preventable accidents so far this year, down from 88 last year. It's a 35% reduction, which is huge. Historically, we have kind of moved between the 1.0 and 1.2 preventable accidents per 100,000 miles. We're deep into this year at 0.81. Incredible work from our safety team with a relatively junior operator workforce. So hats off to them. We already talked about the Metro Now access operator growth. And lastly, this is something that we've talked about as a board and as a team. That first year of being an operator is the most critical. Our statistics show if you stay a year as a fixed route operator, you're likely to stay for a career. So we were happy that we've created and we're standing up 2 transit operator success coaches, 1 at each operating division. And these folks, when operators come out of training, they're going to be assigned a coach that is going to do what they need to do to help them get through that difficult first year. That's connect them to resources in HR. That's reminding them about policy procedure, coaching them on how to deal with difficult situations on the road. This is what we hope to see. If we can make a small improvement in our operator retention in the first year, we'll be able to grow headcount much more rapidly than we've been able to grow it thus far. All that being said, we are seeing some growth in our operator headcount. I think we kind of had a high of 550, and then we dipped down into the 30s, and we're back, inching back towards 550 again. So appreciate the team for all they do there. That's it for me. Unless there are any questions, I'm happy to answer.
Would you like to mention the operator career fair on the 23rd?
But there's an operator career fair on the 23rd at Queensgate. If you'd like to drive a bus with a supervisor over your shoulder on property for a very short distance, you're more than welcome to join us.
Well, I hate to come back on, but it just begged the question. So when we were, and I know this is a little bit late, but with our contract with Robert Half, do we know what percentage of those folks actually end up transitioning and working for us long term?
It's a question for Adrian.
Count, we do transition probably 1 out of 3 if we've got. Sometimes they're just here for a short-term project, but for those where we've got an open position, if they work out of a position, we will transition them over.
Okay, thank you.
Any other questions for Andy? All right. Well, thank you very much. We have one last item on the agenda here, and I'm going to connect it back again to the conference we just went to. So the main consultant there was talking about strategy and strategy communication, and for boards. And we couldn't attend some of the sessions on that because we were coming back. But I managed to get a good amount of time with the consultant outside of normal sessions to talk. And there's more to say about what I learned, but one of the biggest things is that strategy is something that you talk about all the time. you stick close to, you communicate on, and you communicate again on it with stakeholders, with the whole board. Because one of the biggest problems is that if you talk about it every 5 years, 2 or 3 years into it, people's understanding of what each thing means kind of diverges. So that's why you always come back to it, always talk about it, always talk about it. And this is a great time for us to return to some strategy discussions. We have some new leadership in. We've progressed very far through reinventing Metro. Not to say that we're done. There's a lot more to do there, but we continue to progress. And so we're going to launch into several months of working with the board and leadership on talking about planning and strategy. And you can see that there's a calendar here. More to come on exactly the details on how this is going to work out. Staff has worked very carefully to figure out the best way to engage with everybody. And you'll see that we're kind of working towards the budget for next year. So that's why this calendar is focusing on getting through it in October. But that doesn't mean it's over, right? We're just going to do strategic planning for 3 months and then be done for the next 5 or 10 years. No, this is a strong engagement, a strong focus. Get as much input from everybody in addition to the hundreds, I'll say, of meetings that Andy is having with the kind of stakeholders in the region, so that we can look at what we're doing, articulate it for the budget next year, further progressions, and then also see where we need to continue to work moving after that. So please be aware of that, engage heavily. And Neil, looks like you have a question.
I do. I'm not up to date on my acronyms, I guess. What does PESTLE stand for?
I'm going to get it wrong if I try to do each one, but essentially it's an environmental scan, right? What's going on with the economy, what's going on in society, what's going on environmentally that could affect our business.
Interesting.
Yes.
Quick question, just about the process. And I know you said there's more detail to come. So is this so it says planning team. Is it a committee or ad hoc committee of the board, or this is a planning team that just consists of board members and staff? The reason I bring this up is that a lot of times, particularly when you're doing something like this, it's because it's for a short period of time. There's an ad hoc committee that's created, strategy committee, and it consists obviously of both board members and staff. Work on this. So is this kind of what the planning team is similar?
Not in
really
terms of
committee
planning
the
and
board,
ops.
Or outside of governance.
So it's the chair and vice chair, Andy, Khaled, and John. And so we're working together on a regular basis to structure this out so we can be as efficient in pulling the whole board in. So
I guess my
if that makes
question is
sense.
more, is the planning team operating outside of the board, or is it a committee, an ad hoc, short-term committee of the board?
I don't see it as a committee of the board.
Okay, so this process is operating outside of the board, and then this group will bring questions or input to the board as a readout.
Should we
Yeah,
go through some of the
This
details?
is back to this
Yeah.
understanding process
Exactly.
and the governance around.
Yeah. So I think the way that we've talked about it so far is that the 5 folks that are on this slide will create the structure in terms of how we will meet and the cadence and how we'll bring the board together. But none of the content would be discussed or evaluated with this group. This is the group that's going to shepherd the whole board through that. So the first meeting that we would have in terms of the environmental and organizational assessment, that information will come to the whole board. And the whole board will be involved each step of the way. The 5 of us will just make sure that we structurally step everybody through the whole process. But it won't be a subset or an ad hoc reporting out to this board. The entire board will be involved and see every bit of the strategic planning process, if that makes sense. So we are essentially the shepherds walking all 16 members through the process. Does that help?
Nope,
Yep.
that makes sense. This is a clarity question.
Yep.
around
Yep.
How we're gonna be governed.
And we're working through that. The goal here is just to communicate, like, oh, we have a shortish timeline, and we be ready to engage next month and get moving on this so we can work through all these issues over the next several months. And again, it doesn't end in 3 months. It is a continuous process, but we wanted to get through as much as we could before budget for next year, so that we could account for anything unexpected that comes up from the whole board. Yep.
So just to underscore what I think I heard you say, Andy, the 5 of you won't be bringing things for sort of drafts for us to review. It'll be more you'll structure the conversation so we're all touching, feeling, shaping the plan.
Yes.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah. So that's what we're going to do is, so again, perfect example is in this environmental and organizational assessment. So we're going to work through how do we get that information and when to the board, what those meetings will look like. The entire board will be included, but we're not going to go through as a subcommittee and do that work absent the full board. So we're going to provide the structure. I would argue that over the next 3 months, the board being engaged in this strategic planning process and the information that comes through is some of the most important work that we'll do in the next year, with the goal of trying to get all of us, staff and board, aligned. So I would really, I think on behalf of the 5 of us here, as you see information come up about strategic plan update, really try to prioritize that. Because I think that with a short timeline, it's going to be important that everybody gets engaged. We're going to try to make it easy for everybody to where it's not giant time commitments, but there's a lot to cover between here and there.
I have 2 questions. One around facilitation. Who's facilitating the discussion, and will there be cross-stakeholder conversation, or everyone will be in their group silos? How's
Yep.
the structure of that?
So we've spoken briefly about that, and with the first piece in terms of doing existing conditions, we had talked about getting together pods. So groups of the board that don't constitute a quorum get together and go through all of this information and get all your feedback on it. But I think what we had talked about is we get toward reviewing the draft strategic plan, we would like to probably do a retreat with the full board, and we haven't yet talked about how to facilitate that. But that would be later in the process. Welcome your input there, and we're still kind of building as we go down the stream a little bit as well.
And what about hearing directly from the people? It's hard to really get context when you're reading surveys. I'm assuming SWOT analysis and things like that are surveys, but really getting an understanding, whether it's staff, CPS, just all of those great relationships that we built.
Can we talk a little bit about that? We're
ahead.
gonna pull in a lot of stakeholder information from a lot of different sources. We are having one-on-one conversations I'm in the process of agency heads and leads in the community, but we also have a ton of customer data that we did through our deep survey that we're gonna bring into this. We also have customer service information and customer service reports that we're gonna bring in real time into. We're gonna try to provide as much context as possible.
All right. Any other questions, concerns? All right. Please keep an eye out for this and keep bringing those questions. I really value the experience that all of you have in these type of discussions across different institutions. And I stand behind that statement that the planning and strategy is a constant, every month effort by the board. And so this is a good effort to focus us on that strategy moving forward. And then any additional work we have to do in the next year to really achieve the strategy that the board and the community needs and wants. So, yeah.
I would just add just something to consider as we're going through the process, engaging the community throughout to get feedback as we go and share where we are in the process.
Great, thank you very much. Any new business? I always look at Pete, I'm sorry.
It's only 10 o'clock, Pete. Where have you been?
All right, seeing none, we are adjourned. Thank you very much.